Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to have been invited to open the second day of this conference, and I want to start by paying tribute to the remarkable work being done by the staff and volunteers, both in victim support and in Nexus. I'm enormously grateful for the invaluable role that you all play in helping victims, ensuring their voices are heard and their rights upheld within the criminal justice system. As Justice Minister, I said that I wanted to focus in this short mandate on taking forward work to ensure the best possible support for victims of crime at every stage of their journey through the justice system. I'm also committed to protecting individuals, including through criminalisation of a range of harmful and invasive behaviours. I don't underestimate the impact of such abuses, and so have sought to bring forward a range of legislative measures to criminalise domestic abuse, including sexually abusive behaviours within a relationship. Work is also underway to address non-fatal strangulation, the so-called rough sex defence, and both upskirting and down-blousing. And I've also recently introduced legislation to the Assembly to criminalise stalking behaviours and enhance the protections available for victims of this insidious crime. My first legislative priority, however, was the Domestic Abuse and Civil Proceedings Bill, and I'm really delighted that this has now completed its passage through the Assembly on the 18th of January and should receive royal assent within weeks. This is a really important piece of legislation that will make a real and tangible difference for those who are already affected by emotional, financial and sexual abuse, and to those who face controlling and coercive behaviour. Key to shaping it and making it as effective as possible has been listening to both victims' stories and to our voluntary sector partners. It's my intention that the bill, in addition to criminalising abusive behaviours, will help to give victims the confidence to know that they will be believed, that the abuse is not as a result of anything they have done or not done, that there is no shame in being a victim of domestic abuse, and crucially, that the justice system works for them. It will also provide police with the necessary tools for early intervention, and work is underway to ensure that the offence will become operational by the end of this year at the latest, and hopefully sooner. However, I recognise that the needs of victims go way beyond the creation of new offences. That's why I'm introducing a new advocacy service to provide victims of both domestic and sexual abuse with access to support throughout their criminal justice journey. The new bespoke service will build on existing services to provide consistent and equitable support, accessible to all qualifying victims regardless of their level of risk, age, gender or where they live. It's my intention that that will be in place in the autumn. The effects of domestic abuse can be devastating and in some cases can lead to the loss of life. On average, 6 people are killed every year in Northern Ireland by a partner, former partner or a family member, and the current COVID-19 restrictions have heightened the impact on those being subjected to domestic and sexual violence and abuse. That is why last year I introduced the Domestic Homicide Review Service with the overarching intention of helping to prevent or reduce the number of domestic homicides each year by capturing the learning from what are tragic events to assist with improving our response where possible to domestic abuse. In addition to helping us learn lessons and highlight best practice, these reviews will also provide a voice for victims and their families. My department will continue to work closely with all our colleagues across the statutory, community and voluntary sectors to ensure these reviews improve services and responses to victims. I also want to talk about what we're doing in response to serious sexual offences. At last year's conference, Sir John Gillan reflected on his report into the law and procedures in serious sexual offences in Northern Ireland. 1 year on, I'm pleased to be able to update you on the progress we're making to implement that important review. In doing so, I want to put on record my thanks for the contribution many of you here today have made to that progress by engaging, partnering, advising and delivering. The Gillan Review will deliver a whole system transformation which we cannot achieve without that collaborative approach, and so I really thank you for it. The multi-agency Gillan Review implementation plan was published last July and focused on the 14 strategic priority areas that will make the greatest difference to victims' life experience in the justice system. The first of these strategic priorities is the establishment of remote evidence centres to allow vulnerable and child victims and witnesses to provide evidence remote from the court building. These centres will provide victims and witnesses with a less daunting environment from which to give evidence and eliminate any chance of encountering the defendant or their family in the court building. I'm delighted to say that 2 facilities, one in Craigavon and the other in Belfast, are now ready for use, and we anticipate they will commence operations within the next few weeks. These centres are a significant first step and will provide additional protections to vulnerable victims at what is a traumatic and distressing time in their lives. Another key priority has been to provide pre-trial legal advice to complainants in sexual offence cases, ensuring that they understand their rights and can make informed decisions. This is about recognising the impact that the criminal justice system can have on complainants and providing a service that will enhance their confidence and support them in navigating through it. Again, I'm delighted to report that from the 1st of April this year, adult complainants in these cases will have access to fully qualified sexual offences legal advisors. These advisors will be able to provide advice in relation to the disclosure of evidence, including medical records, counselling records and personal digital information such as mobile phone records. They will also be able to provide specific legal advice in relation to the disclosure of previous sexual history and ensure that their clients' interests and wishes are communicated to the Public Prosecution Service. This pilot scheme will run for an initial 2-year period and will be delivered through victim support to help inform the development of long-term services, including the development of equivalent legal advice for complainants who are children. The Gillen report also included a suite of recommendations aimed at improving the experience of child complainants in sexual offence cases by providing a supportive, child-friendly, interdisciplinary and multi-agency approach for child victims and witnesses. Many of you will be aware of the judge-led protocol that was launched in Belfast in September 2019 to expedite serious sexual offence cases involving children under 13 years old. The protocol aims to maximise the opportunity for young witnesses to provide their best evidence to court and to minimise the stress and emotional impact of the criminal justice process on them. It's clear that the protocol is making a positive difference for children and for their families, and my officials are working with the operational partners involved in the protocol and with the Lord Chief Justice's office to explore how best we can ensure that those benefits can be extended and formalised in practice. I also want to ensure that the lessons from this protocol can be used as a basis to deliver substantial improvements across the justice system in terms of enhancing the support facilities and outcomes for the children themselves. However, none of us should underestimate the scale and complexity of this work. These are just some of the projects being progressed under Gillen Review Implementation Programme. Other key developments to reform the committal process and to establish case progression officers to help reduce delay in the criminal justice system are underway and will help to mitigate some of the impact on victims. Similarly, I'm grateful to the PPS and the PSNI for the work that they've been doing to resolve issues relating to the disclosure process, which I'm sure will also improve public confidence in the justice system. And I intend to bring forward further legislation to offer important protections by addressing the issues relating to anonymity highlighted in Sir John's review. The Gillen Review envisaged transformation not only of our laws and procedures, but also of our organisational and societal cultures in order to deliver sustained change. Cultural change on this scale relies on leadership, on communication and on training. That's why we are working to develop a strategic training plan, and it's so important. And I'm really grateful to Geraldine Hanna, CEO of Victim Support NI, for leading on this work stream with a view to developing a trauma-informed justice system through the development and delivery of appropriate training to justice partners to support increased awareness, sensitivity and handling of serious sexual offence cases. We're doing separate cross-sectoral work to scope, develop and implement education and awareness on issues including consent, rape myths and the use of social media in serious sexual offence cases. Ensuring age-appropriate relationship and sexuality education is delivered in all schools is a key objective of the group, and they continue to work towards that goal. Since becoming Justice Minister just over a year ago, I have realised how important it is that we do everything within our power to ensure that the needs and interests of victims are at the heart of the justice system. Unfortunately, as most of you will be aware, while that is what we aspire to and what we're working towards, it's not always the reality. And sometimes the system falls short of meeting the real needs of victims. So after looking at the evidence and informed by a reference group of experts who work directly with victims, I have been convinced that a new Victims of Crime Commissioner for Northern Ireland would add value to what we are already doing and help put victims' needs and interests where they should be, at the very heart of the system. I see the Commissioner as someone who can provide a voice for victims, promote and encourage good practice, review the adequacy and effectiveness of our laws and our operational practices, champion the delivery of charter entitlements, and challenge, advise and make recommendations to me and to criminal justice agencies to ultimately push for delivery of improved outcomes for victims. This is an important role, and as such I have asked my officials to develop detailed proposals with a view to establishing a Commissioner designate before the end of this mandate. I realise that I have covered a lot this morning in my brief remarks and my introductions. There are a lot of new developments in this update and I hope that that is encouraging. However, I also realise that there is much more to do. Victims are very much at the heart of my agenda, and my department is committed to pushing forward each of these transformational initiatives so that we can deliver a criminal justice system that encourages victims to come forward and supports them from the day they report, through the days of investigation, through the trial and beyond. I look forward to hearing about the discussions arising out of your conference today, and I hope you have a really enjoyable and productive day. Thank you very much for the invitation and I look forward to being in touch.